Hey friends, and welcome to the Moms About Sanity podcast. I'm Brittany, accountability coach for women who know they're made for more. This is a space where ambition meets real life, where we talk fitness, family, personal growth, leadership, and all the what the hell is happening right now moments in between. Around here, we don't chase perfection. We build momentum. We push comfort zones, ask better questions, and take real action on the goals that matter most. Each week, you'll hear honest conversations, powerful guests, and grounded reminders that you don't have to choose between showing up for your life and going after your potential. So whether you're walking, sweating, driving, or hiding in your car for 5 quiet minutes, you're in the right place. This is your permission to stop playing small in your own life. Let's get into it. Okay, well, today I'm here with Jennifer Hanway, and I'm super excited for this conversation. We are going to go all over, but we came into each other's worlds and realms through our MCM mastermind, and we were just having a chat before hitting record on, being in the rooms and utilizing something from, the lessons weekly, even if that is a connection. And so I'm so excited for this connection here. So thank you for being here today, Jennifer.
No, and thank you for having me. I'm honored to be asked, and I'm looking forward to talking all of the things and going off on all of the tangents.
Exactly. Well, if maybe are you able to give a little background on yourself so that everyone knows who they're listening to?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's funny, a little background because I'm 45 now. So it's like, it's a big background. So I've been in the health and wellness industry for 19 years. I was a professional dancer prior to that. I had an injury. I couldn't dance anymore. So I did some teaching, I did some choreography. One of my favorite claims to fame is that I taught Zac Efron how to do the foxtrot, but that was way back in another life. But as a jobbing dancer and dance teacher, you really don't make that much money. And I was, a single girl living in London. So I was like, okay, what's a no-brainer for me? And teaching aerobics was a no-brainer for me. And I mean, this is back in the day of step aerobics, and Zumba paid my bills for a long time. As part of that, I went to work at Amsala Tulum, which was like the first bikini boot camp. If you ever remember those pictures back in the day of Demi Moore in a black bikini, like running across the beach, that was my bikini boot camp. Came back to London, was like, this is what I wanted to do. I ended up working at one of the first bar studios in London. So me and the team there, we opened our first bar studio in London, and that was back in end of 2012. Things happen. I met my husband, who's an American. He was working in professional rugby. So we always jokingly say that he was the original Ted Lasso. He came back here. We did long distance for 9 months. I said, right, let's go. So I came over to Boston. And in between all of that, I went back to school to become a nutritionist, took 1,000,001 certifications. I'm still in school, doing my master's degree now. And now work as a nutritionist. I work specifically with women over 40. I do a lot of work with fat loss, with GLP-1 diets, with peptides, and I do a lot of work on skin nutrition as well. So I partner with Dr. Julie Rusak. She's one of the top dermatologists in the country. I'm on medical advisory boards for Versalie, which is a menopausal health platform, and also with L'Oreal Paris as well. And I work with clients one-to-one, and I have a group program, and then I do brand consulting and partnerships and the medical advisory boards.
Wow.
And in between there, I sleep and eat sometimes as well.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Like just the wealth of knowledge that you have and are and have done and everything, just so incredible. And now where you are and still doing a master's degree, like I just love when people say, I don't have time for that, and that we all have the same amount of hours in the day, and look what you're doing with yours.
Well, we do. And I'm always very honest that my husband and I don't have kids by choice. So our businesses and our careers are our babies. And I'm always very, very honest with that, because the majority of my clients have kids. And I say, look, I can do all of these things because I don't have kids, but let's work for your situation. So I think it's always really important to understand that there are different seasons of life. And sometimes there's a season of life you're pushing in your career and your personal growth, and other times you're just trying to keep your shit together. Am I allowed to say that?
Sorry. Yes, you are. You're fine here. And it's very true. And I appreciate that kind of perspective, because yes, we can't do it all of the time. And so being able to give yourself the grace in whatever season you're in is so important.
We can't do it all of the time. And, and I do all of the things. And honestly, I'm in better health and better shape than I've ever been in my life. But I am in full blown perimenopause right now. I'm having the second period in a month and it's super fun and all of the things. So I think there's also that less glamorous side that I'm not going to post about that on Instagram, but I'm happy to chat to you and your listeners because
We get it.
we're all in it. We get it. We get it. Right. So it's like, it's funny. I was just doing right now, there's this trend on Instagram about your 2016 pictures. So I was looking
Yes.
back
Oh
at
my
my
gosh, I
20,
love it.
I was looking back at my 20, and I'm going to post that actually when we come off our call. And I was looking back at what I was doing in 2016, and I never had a career plan. So I was always going to be a professional dancer or a dance teacher or something. And then that obviously didn't happen because I had an injury. And so then I was, kind of fitness and then fitness adjacent. And all I did was I was just like, I love getting to A, feel better for myself for a living, and B, helping other people. And so there was never this great career plan of, oh, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. Things just kind of came organically. I always said yes to every opportunity that I got that felt like a right fit. So I ended up in the beauty nutrition space because I was running a health retreat in Switzerland, and one of our guests was a dermatologist. And she said to me, I love what you're doing. I love your approach. We're not getting the results we want with patients. Would you consider coming to work with me? Now, this was at the time when Regeneris, this was 2017. So we weren't talking about skin nutrition in that way and collagen and things. We were just thinking Botox and fillers. So I said yes. And that took me into a tangent of working with New Beauty Magazine, working with L'Oreal. That's still that same partnership. So I've never had a great career plan, but I've always said yes to the opportunities that have felt aligned and then kind of figured out the process as we go, which I think a lot of us do.
Yeah. And as you said, like you mentioned the 2016, I think we all short sight ourselves on where we are currently, thinking that,
Right.
we haven't done enough or life hasn't changed. And look how much happened in those 10 years to really align you with where you are now, too. But as you also said, they were always kind of meant to be, right? Like you were always
Yeah.
in this area of life and just living it as you would live your life. And I love that side. Just being really true to who you are has now led you to what you're able to share with other people.
And I think it's interesting. I love the work of Dr. Benjamin Hardy and thinking about, living as you're activating your future self and all of this. But I honestly didn't know in 2016 that these opportunities would be available. Like I couldn't even imagine those things. And I
Yeah.
think things move so fast as well. So for me, it was, I remember the days of like, and my husband, bless him, we were making like liters and liters of smoothies to take with us to fitness pop-ups and like crazy stuff like that. But I always knew it would lead to something, but I wasn't exactly sure what it would lead to. And I couldn't see then what is happening now. Like this week, I just put my book agent has just sent my book proposal off. I'm heading out to go to Paris in a couple of weeks' time to go and work with L'Oreal, and like 20 getting up at 5 a.m. to make smoothies in their kitchen. I would never have foreseen that, but I just kind of kept going.
Yeah. And that's so important. Just don't quit on yourself. Be able
Yeah.
to be in the monotony, be in the curiosity, just keep showing up in whatever way that is, because now look, L'Oreal is calling and you must go. So let's go into a bit of conversation here about, I know how in the women that are listening to this and the women that I coach, many of us feel like our bodies just suddenly stop responding.
Hmm.
And what's actually happening in this metabolic, hormonally
Yeah.
driven stage?
Right, right. What was happening, what we did in our 20s, and let's be real, probably what we were doing in our 20s wasn't the healthiest, but we could drop it 5 pounds in a week if we just did Diet Coke and chicken and iceberg lettuce and went to a few more spin classes, right? And then you get to your mid to late 30s and into your 40s, and your hormonal landscape changes. And I think, let me rephrase that, your physiological and lifestyle landscape changes. Now, things are happening internally, not just to our hormones. And I posted about this on social media this week. It's not just what's happening to our sex hormones, so our progesterone and estrogen as women as we get into our 30s and 40s. There's lots of other things that are happening on a physiological level as well. But if we think about Number one, we think about what's happening with peri and postmenopause. So, fun fact, menopause is 1 day long. So, we use these terms interchangeably all of the time: perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause. Menopause is the 1 day after 12 months without a menstrual bleed.
I
So I
had
was talking
no
to you.
idea. That's
Yeah, isn't that wild?
amazing.
So your
Yes.
menopause is 1 day, and it's what we call a retrospective diagnosis because we never know that we have had that until we're the other side of it. So I was talking to a client yesterday, and she was like, I thought I was there. I did 11 and a half months without a period, and then I had a period, and so we reset that clock back again. So she's still in perimenopause. So perimenopause is that typically 7 to 10 years up to menopause. Menopause, 1 day when you've had 12 months without a period. Everything else is postmenopause. So that's really that perimenopause, postmenopause piece of the puzzle. Now, what's happening is that we're making less sex hormones. So typically we're making less estrogen and progesterone, and we're also making less testosterone as well. And that's something that we're talking about that a little bit more, not as much as we should be. But what these hormones do is that they have this wonderful regulating effect on the body. So typically for something like estrogen is wonderful for helping us build bone density, for helping us build lean muscle mass, for helping us regulate our blood sugar. Progesterone is wonderful for helping us sleep and helping us feel calm and able to deal with stress. Now, as these hormones start to, yes, lower, but also kind of go all over the place, then that's when we start to have some of our health issues. So we might see it in weight gain, we might see it in brain fog, we might see it in lack of sleep, inflammation, definitely irregular cycles. But we typically start to see things like irregular sleep, weight gain, lowered resiliency to stress. That's a big one. Like things that we used to be able to handle just feel overwhelming.
So
We
true.
typically
More
see those
anxiety, right?
more anxiety,
Yeah.
And I'm always very honest with my own health journey. I struggled for about 18 months with really, really bad anxiety. And I was on anti-anxiety medication and it helped take the edge off. But when I went on HRT, and again, everybody's journey is different. When I went on HRT, that was the game changer that anti-anxiety meds weren't. Now, did
Yeah.
I probably need both? Yes. But that's one of the first things that we hear is that I just can't handle the stress that I used to be able to handle, or I've got crippling anxiety. I worry about things that I never used to. And typically we see those changes before we even see changes in our cycle. Everybody's perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause journey is different. This is one of the things I learned from working with Versalie, which is the menopause platform that used to be with Johnson & Johnson, is I got access to all of these women going through those different life stages, and everyone's is different. Everybody has a different experience. So with those lowering and fluctuating levels of hormones comes things like weight gain, changes where we're holding our body fat, sleep, the typical vasomotor symptoms, so night sweats and hot flashes. But honestly, those are just two out of hundreds of different symptoms. A weird symptom I had was really bad itching ears. So I had really itchy, so strange, right? Because
And I've
we
heard like more of like a muted kind of
can
feeling
affect
in
your
the
hearing,
hearing. Is that right? Yeah.
sight, all like
Crazy.
literally everything. And that's
Yeah.
because the majority of our cells in our body have estrogen receptors. So it's system wide, not just, oh, I've got irregular periods and weight gain and I'm a bit cranky. It doesn't kind of work that way. So with that comes things like struggling to regulate our blood sugar. It affects our ability to put on lean muscle mass. It affects our bone density. Our risk for things like cardiovascular disease and certain cancers goes up. So it really is system wide. Now, along with that, we also have other physiological systems that change. Now, we don't know whether they're changing because of aging or because of perimenopause, because you can't separate the two things. But for example, I will always tell my clients to, when they go to see their PCP, get them to test everything. Do not be fobbed off with, it's just your age, it's just your hormones. Because it's
No, that's
probably
over. We're done with yeah.
we're not doing that anymore.
No.
Because it's probably your hormones and. So, for example, when I have a fantastic concierge medicine doctor, and when I was really kind of feeling perimenopausal, I started off with my OBGYN and they were like, yeah, you're in early perimenopause, but we don't do hormone replacement therapy or menopause hormone therapy until you're really showing vasomotor symptoms. And I was like, cool. knowing what I know. So for me, I wanted it to be preventative. I'm a small person. I have a family history of cardiovascular disease and bone cancer and breast cancer. I didn't want to go down the osteopenia or osteoporosis route. So I wanted to prevent those issues. So I have a fantastic functional medicine doctor, but we tested everything, like 19 vials of blood. And yes, I was in early perimenopause. So we did some hormone replacement for that, some estrogen, some progesterone. My testosterone is low, so I also do testosterone therapy, but also my thyroid function was low. So we put in some thyroid medication. My vitamin D was low, so we popped in a vitamin D supplement. It's very much a case of there's lots of different physiological systems that are changing at this time, but then also put that hand in hand with you being probably at the peak of your career and family responsibilities. And as I said, I can go to the gym 4 times a week because I run my own business and I don't have kids.
Mm-hmm.
I've got clients with 3 kids running, $7 billion businesses that can squeeze 20 minutes. So we also have lifestyle shifts at this time when we were in our 20s. We didn't really, we had the energy to go to the gym at 6:30 at night. Like I remember those days. I couldn't do it now. I'm in bed. I'm literally in my pajamas. So I think it's understanding that there's many physiological systems that change, but there's also lifestyle shifts that come in your 30s and 40s.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And again, going back to the giving yourself the grace for that, but also not leaning on that as a crutch to not get to the root
Yes.
of things, not want to aspire to be back to the healthier self and, all of that at the same time. So, how do gut health and inflammation kind of relate to this and the hormone levels and then showing up internally, externally?
Yeah, all of the things, all of the
Yeah.
things. So what's interesting is that our gut microbiome also changes when we are in peri and postmenopause. So we have
Yeah.
something called especially something called the estrobolome. Now, this is where we make and detoxify hormones, especially estrogen. And our function there can downregulate as well and change the good and bad bacteria change as we're in perimenopause. Now, with any kind of gut dysfunction, and typically when we're talking about a healthy gut, we're talking about 2 things. We're talking about the integrity of the intestinal lining, which we also know as leaky gut. So, really, what we want to make sure that we're keeping the right things in and keeping the wrong things out. And that can cause inflammation and also nutrient deficiencies. Then we're also talking about the health of the microbiome. So the microbiome lives it's 1 cell thick and it lives the gut lining is 1 cell thick, and our microbiome lives just above that. And that can regulate everything from our metabolism to the types of food that we crave, to our neurotransmitters, to our hormones, to et cetera, et cetera. So if we are looking after our gut, number one, we're looking after the seat of inflammation. We're also looking after our hormones as well, because it's not just hormone production, it's hormone detoxification as well. So gut health is really something that we should be looking at every stage of our life. And this is really where my career pivot came in. I actually had such poor gut health that I was hospitalized. I couldn't find any answers in conventional medicine. So that's when I started to retrain, went back to school. So really gut health, if you don't have your gut health, you don't have anything. And I
And don't
think
they say the gut, it's the brain gut
it's the second
correlation,
brain.
right? The
It's the
connection.
second brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the second
Yeah.
brain. And that's we're starting to see, and we only kind of scrape the surface on this science. But yes, your brain and your gut are communicating all of the time. And we would imagine that it's brain to gut, but a lot of it is gut to brain as well. So they're always in communication. So even if it's something like sugar cravings, well, that could be coming from an imbalance in your gut bacteria, not just you don't have any willpower.
Yeah.
Making your neurotransmitters that help you deal with stress and resiliency and help you feel joy. So 70 to 80% of serotonin is made in the gut lining. If we're not making that gut lining, we're not going to have the capacity to feel joy or feel resilient. I struggled with depression and anxiety in my teens and my 20s. And I am convinced it was related to my poor gut health. Now, that was never, we're talking about the nice conventional medicine in the UK, that was never looked upon. But I know even if I have, if I'm traveling or I have a GI upset or something, I know that my mood is going to be different for a couple of days afterwards.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Even going like that step further, certain foods that you eat, and then suddenly you feel that in your gut. feel how it affects your body, then you're feeling it in your head. When we're more
Yeah.
in tune with ourselves,
Yeah.
it's almost obvious, but it's so overlooked.
Right. And I think that's, can we do food intolerance testing and all of those things? And there's a lot of science behind which foods are good for our gut and which foods aren't. But I'm also always going to go with a client's feelings and how they respond in their body. So, we could do a food intolerance panel and dairy doesn't come up in their food intolerance panel. But if they're like, you know what, I feel so much clearer headed and less puffy if I'm not having dairy, we're not going to have dairy. So it is being able to listen to our bodies as well as look at the science.
Quick pause, and I want to speak directly to you for a second. If you've been listening to this podcast thinking, this hits, but I need support actually applying it, that's exactly why I built the Momentum Collective. It's a coaching space for women who don't want more information. They want clarity, accountability, and real forward movement. Inside, we focus on building momentum in your health, your mindset, your goals, and your life without burning yourself out. If you're ready to stop circling the same goals and start taking consistent action, the Momentum Collective might be exactly what you've been looking for. You can find all the details in the show notes. Okay, back to the episode. Yeah. So I know you talk about the beauty forward fat loss. So what are the biggest weight loss mistakes that women make that really do accelerate our skin aging, the dull glow, like all the things? Because I am into the lasers. I'm like, let's go. What can we do?
I love it all. I love it. Like, let's be honest, I love it all. But so much of it comes internally. And this is how I got into this field. So I was working with a dermatologist who was doing the lasers and the peels and all of the things. And she was saying her patients were not getting the recovery because the internal mechanisms weren't optimized. And I think here's the wonderful thing about tweaking our diet and optimizing our diet. We're eating anyway. And probably most of us have some kind of, let's say, standards for our diets. So we're probably not having junk food every single day. We're probably not having wine every single night, et cetera, et cetera. We've got to eat something. Now, the problem with rapid weight loss, and we are seeing this on GLP-1 diets as well. And this is not to vilify GLP-1 diets. I microdose GLP-1s myself. I think they're great for the right person. The challenge with GLP-1 diets is that they are reducing your appetite. And so you might not be able to get the protein and the nutrients that you need for a great metabolism and great skin. And the same with rapid weight loss diets. GLP-1s are just the equivalent of calorie restricted diets that we all tried in our 20s.
Yeah.
But if we're not, what happens is when we are lowering our calorie intake, whether that's through peptide help or whether that's just through sheer white knuckling it, we're not having as many nutrients in our diet. And we typically, especially with the GLP-1s, we're not really craving things like a grilled chicken salad. So this is where some of the challenge can come in. And what really happens is that number one, we lose lean muscle mass. And we never want to lose lean muscle mass. Lean muscle mass is our metabolic gold. So we want to hold on to that with everything that we have. Because as we age, we lose it quicker and we find it harder to put it on. I had a client she was 52 and she had been on, this was quite a few years ago now, she'd been on one of the medically approved shake diets. And she lost 20 pounds. But we did a DEXA scan and she'd lost 10 pounds of lean muscle mass and 10 pounds of fat.
Wow, that's huge.
And it's huge. It's huge for anyone, especially a woman of 52, when we're going to find it really hard to put that back on again. So number one is that we want to be looking after our lean muscle mass. Now, yes, for our metabolism, but also for our faces. People forget that we have muscles in our faces. So this is one of the things that we see with GLP-1 use is that we're losing muscle mass, so sarcopenia across the body, but we're also losing it in the face as well. Now, we can do lunges and squats and step ups to put the muscles back into our butts. There's not a lot that we can do to put muscle back into our face. We can do our biostimulatory fillers, which help our collagen and elastin, but they don't help the muscles. So even if I have to come at kind of that increasing that protein intake with my client for all right, you're not getting the piece about lean muscle mass, but can we get the piece about your face? And they're like, oh my goodness, yes, then we'll up the protein there. So the protein piece of the puzzle works with metabolism, and it also works with skin as well. And also with protein, what's in protein, the amino acids are the building blocks for collagen and elastin. Collagen and elastin is that wonderful stuff that keeps our face lifted and youthful, and we want as much of that as possible.
Mm.
Now we also have to think about nutrient density. So it's very, if we've ever done a calorie controlled diet, especially in the 90s and the noughties, it was cold grilled chicken breast with no fat, an iceberg lettuce, and a Diet Coke on the side, right? And the only joy in your life was the Diet Coke. Now, those things are, yes, low calorie and low carbohydrate, but they're low in nutrient density as well. So what we want to be thinking about when we're thinking about skin and we're thinking about hair, they really are the last in the pecking order when it comes to nutrients. So our body's going to go, hang on, what do I need to stay alive? All right, I need to keep my organs alive. I need to keep my bones alive. I need to keep my muscles alive. Hair, skin, and nails, forget about those. They're not essential. So we have to really think about nutrient density when we're thinking about, I've got a smaller number of calories. How much bang for my buck can I get in there? So let's take our grilled chicken example. Maybe instead of doing grilled chicken and iceberg lettuce, we do wild caught salmon and arugula. Then we're getting a lot more of those anti-inflammatory fats. We're getting the antioxidants in the salmon. We're getting the bitter leafy greens in the arugula. Same format for the meals, but we've just upped that nutrient density. So I think that's really the two things to think about are, how am I getting enough protein in? And is this really a bang for your buck meal? Do I have as many nutrients in there as possible?
I love that. Yeah, I spoke with someone recently. She's like, what's just like one thing I can add to every meal?
Yeah.
Can I grab that sprinkle of nuts and throw it into my salad at the same time? Or just, what's one extra thing I can do to amplify this salad? Or
Yeah, and I think that's where I always start with people. If people come to me and they are new to working with a nutritionist or looking after their health, typically that's if I'm doing something more in the public space, if I'm doing a corporate wellness workshop or something. I always ask them, what can they add in before they take away? Because that does a mindset shift and it does a appetite and hunger shift as well. So the minute, I walk into a room, people think I'm the food police. They think I'm going to take away their Snapple and their chips and their whole thing. And I'm going to want to do that, but I'm not going to do that. But what I will say, if someone is starting something new, what can they think about adding in? And that's going to make them feel automatically, okay, look at all of these foods that I can have and I can enjoy rather than being in the deprivation mindset. And then part two, if we're adding protein to a meal, if we're adding leafy greens to a meal, that's naturally going to make us feel more full. And we're probably not going to want that candy or that sweet treat after the meal. So I think it works in both ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So you briefly touched on the GLP-1s. I mean, we literally see them everywhere in every conversation, just on Oprah's podcast also.
Yeah.
So what do women need to understand about how this affects their weight loss, their muscle loss, and then you touched on the skin health, which is the coin, Ozempic face?
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, we still need to understand that these are not magic pills or magic bullets or magic injections. They're pretty close, so where we're at so far. But you cannot take a GLP-1 and not change your diet and lifestyle and expect to see fantastic results, whether you're doing a big dose or whether you're doing a microdose. It doesn't work like that. So what GLP-1s do is that they help to reduce your food noise. And I've had a couple of clients who have done everything. Absolutely. And I've got 2 clients in mind and they've done absolutely everything and they followed everything that I say to a T, but they still haven't seen the results that they deserved because they had very loud food noise. And I think that is the piece that hasn't been understood enough, there hasn't been empathetic care around that food noise, because food noise is different for everybody and we don't know what normal food noise is. So your food noise is different to mine, which is different to my husband's. I don't think my husband has like an off switch for, like, he has food noise 24/7. I'm always like, I'm going to get you with my GLP-1 so we can bring down our food bill. So everybody has different food noise, but I think over the years that hasn't been treated empathetically enough. So they help to bring down that food noise, which can be great. Now they also help to regulate our blood sugar, and then they can also help with inflammation as well. So that's kind of the 3 big things that GLP-1s do. GLP-1s do not magically take donuts and turn them into lean muscle tissue. We are not there yet. When we are, I will let you know, and that will be wonderful. But
You still have to do the work.
We still have to do the work. So we still have to think about what we're putting into, you can't out supplement, out medicate, out exercise a bad diet. So with the GLP-1s, we still have to be very aware of what we're eating, and maybe even a little bit more, because as I say, everything that we eat has to be bang for its buck. And then the other piece is that your body is not going to make lean muscle mass without a stimulus. So yes, we could be eating, our 100, 120 grams of protein a day, fantastic. But if we're not telling our body what to do with that protein, we're not going to be able to keep and make that lean muscle mass. And something that I think is fascinating, and I think our bodies are so clever, is that weight loss, when we have weight loss from either calorie deficit diet or when we have weight loss from a GLP, it will always be a combination of fat and muscle. We can't switch that muscle loss off completely. But what we can do is tell our body to preserve lean muscle mass, and strength training does this. So strength training gives a signal to our body to say, hang on, the body is using that lean muscle mass. We need to preserve that. Let's burn body fat instead. And I think that's a piece that's not talked about enough, is that the strength training tells our body, no, we need that lean muscle tissue, leave that alone, let's burn fat instead. It's not.
And it is possible to gain and build muscle on a GLP as long as you are literally flexing that muscle.
100%. You have to signal to your body. You have to do two things. You have to give your body the raw material to make that muscle. So that's protein and our micronutrients and some carbohydrates as well. And then we have to tell our body, I need you to hold on to that lean muscle mass. And that's what we do through strength training. And yes, you can 100% build lean muscle mass on a GLP. You just have to be consistent and deliberate.
So you mentioned you microdose personally. What are your reasons behind it?
Yeah, so typically that I'm 45. I since I'd say my early 30s, I've been in good shape because I work at it. I'm not one of these people that's like genetically blessed with a ton of lean muscle mass. Like my body will naturally go to skinny fat if I don't take care of it. And for me, that was getting harder to manage as I was getting older. I had a big wake up call. I was doing a training with the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, fantastic training about clinical weight management and GLP-1 use. And this was back in October 2024. So I just turned 44, or was about to turn 44. And they had a body composition monitor. Now, I have always been within about half a pound of the same weight for about a decade, like to the point where I would joke about it. I would only ever weigh myself at the doctor's and I would joke about it. And there I was. My weight had not changed, but I had this wake up call with this body scan of my body fat had gone all the way up and my lean muscle mass had gone all the way down. And I knew it wasn't my diet. I know it was because I wasn't strength training consistently with a program, all of those things. I know better. I'm a personal trainer. My husband, for crying out loud, is a professor of exercise science. But I'm a human being also. Yeah. And I don't love strength training. I'm always very honest. But that was a real wake-up call for me. So as part of that, that's when I started working with the doctor that I was working with. We saw that my testosterone levels were low, but I was inflamed and my blood sugar balance wasn't balancing as well as I wanted it to. Now, also, I always want to know what my clients are going through, so within reason. And then I also struggle with eczema, and it's something that I've had since I was a baby. I have it under as much control as I can. But again, I'm a human being living in the world. So that's why I microdosed with the GLP-1. I saw fantastic results. My diet is super, super dialed in. I strength train 4 times a week. I protect my sleep like it's everything. So for me, the GLP-1 was that last 1 to 2%. I wasn't expecting it to fix all my problems for me.
Yeah, I love that. And you're open and honest about it. And so I also microdose GLP-1.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I have elevated LP(a). So it affects my cholesterol levels. Yes. And so no matter how great I am with things, like I move my body every day. Yeah. I'm like great with an 80-20 diet, that kind of, but really dialed in. No one would say like, you don't move your body, right. All that.
Yeah.
And it was the DEXA scan, and I'm like, oh wow, like I said to my husband, I'm like, I don't want to have to train like I'm doing an Ironman every day to feel really great in my body. There's
Yeah.
something that has to give here.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm 43 now, and so every year gets harder. And so what is the thing that I can do that changes that? Same, I have eczema. I've had it from the day I was born.
Yeah.
That's gone. My
Yeah.
cholesterol levels are like so low now because of
Yeah.
the anti-inflammation. There's just so many things that have changed in my health. Like
Mhm.
I look at my 5 years worth of blood work and
Yeah.
everything is better.
Yeah.
And I only lost 3 pounds of like pounds, right, on the
Yeah. I
scale.
don't even know.
However,
I haven't weighed myself. Yeah.
yeah, like I didn't lose the weight, but I lost like 3 to 5% of body fat and I gained a pound and a half of muscle.
Yeah.
So it's possible, but you have to, and you don't need to take large doses, which is the
No.
whole amazing thing behind it. And
Yeah.
even talking to Dr. Stacy Sims not too long ago, also, we don't need to kill ourselves in the gym to make and see
No.
progress.
And actually we can overtrain. And I've been doing the GLP for about 6 months now in combination with, and it is in combination with everything else. And there is genetic, but cholesterol is such a complex and complicated topic.
Yeah.
And there are 20% of the population will have genetic issues with their cholesterol, which again, we didn't even touch on it, but menopause will change your cholesterol levels as well.
Yeah.
So again, estrogen has this wonderful mitigating effect on the bad cholesterol. When we're having those lowered hormones, we can't get a handle on that as well. And we see, I have so many women come to me and their cholesterol levels just jump up during perimenopause. And that's because we're not having the estrogen. Now, the GLPs can absolutely help with that as well. So yes, I think it's so easy to be so black and white on these things.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is really somewhere in the middle, but it's just so important, and now we're seeing so many other peptides as well. And like, it kills me that it's like, DM me the word peptide for my peptide stack. And I'm just like, what are we doing here? Peptides are medications that you
Yeah.
need a doctor to prescribe for you. Now,
Yeah.
I'm putting myself through peptide therapy certifications. I won't be able to prescribe them, but so I can learn them. And so I know their interactions with the body, et cetera, et cetera. But that is a scary thing as well. So I think peptides in any form need to be so individualized. And then I was talking to a client this morning about peptides and I was like, peptides are great, but if you do them right, it's high maintenance.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need to be okay with getting your blood work done I get my blood work done every 3 months. You need to be okay with being able to cycle on and off them. You need to be okay with knowing that they're going to have these other side effects. They are a whole other thing. Even just with GLPs, you have to be so cognizant of your diet when you're on a GLP because every calorie matters when you're on a GLP-1.
Totally. I did NAD for like a few years, just trying to really bring down the cholesterol level there too. And
Yeah.
I did one tangent of like 3 months at a time. I was going hard on it. And yeah, it brought my levels down. But I'm like, I don't have the time to sit in the doctor's office with an IV drip
Yes.
like 2 weeks every month. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, you can't do that. That's not life.
That's what I mean by that. They are, when you do them right, they are high maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
And they can be great for a season they can be great for a season or they can be great for a certain person. I was saying to my client she's like a 50-year-old woman, like she's super, super busy, lives in New York. And I was like, they're great if you're a 20 or 30-year-old finance bro with no family things whatsoever. And you can have someone come to your office and put you on an NAD drip. But otherwise, if you do them right, and you should do them right because they're not just vitamins and minerals, even though those things can be really, they can have a big result in the body as well. These things they're effective for a reason, but that also means that there are things that can go wrong with them for a reason.
Absolutely. And I like that. I appreciate what you brought up about, we are seeing peptides everywhere and that you're doing the research behind it because there are differences between the medical grade and then the ones you can just buy off of Amazon or whatever. And my husband actually, a few years ago, we were doing the medical grade in the doctor's office, and he ended up building up an allergy to
Right.
alpha 1, like thymosin A1. and he ended up going anaphylactic on it, and it landed him in the hospital, and that is medical grade. So when you're just buying it off of Amazon, you are literally putting your life into potential risk.
Yeah. And this is what we don't see. I'm in a lot of, aesthetic provider communities, and a lot of, I work adjacent with a lot of medical professionals.
Yeah.
We see that the anaphylactics is not uncommon. And that's in a controlled, medically safe environment.
Yes.
So we're not seeing that side of it because it's not Instagram friendly. And I saw something, because obviously, this is what our Instagram feeds are now going to be full of these peptides.
Exactly. We're going to get totally.
But I saw it was a certification course for fitness professionals to recommend peptide stacks. And it was a $26 course. I'm just like,
yes.
It's literally, I'm going to study with a medical association, thousands upon thousands of dollars, and I'm not even going to be prescribing them. I just want to understand how they work in the body, how they interact with other things.
And even the talk around them when the person themselves isn't even doing it or has not done it, like there's no actual knowledge on how you're supposed to feel on that side of it too. I'm like, how can you speak to this if you don't do that?
We shouldn't be speaking to this. We should be able to, as for myself, as fitness professionals, nutritionists, dietitians, health coaches, anyone within that landscape, we need to be able to give our clients resources, but we also need to stay within our scope of practice.
Thank you. Bang on. Like, we can't, again, going back to that, we can't be everything for everyone, but there are someone for that. And so if you don't know, refer, and never think that you are going to lose a client because of it. You're absolutely not. You are going to probably gain a client because of it. And I always say to clients, you have to build a healthcare team. Now, that's expensive and it's time consuming. And, one of the questions I get from my clients all the time is, why is my doctor not telling me this? I had to push for my doctor to prescribe that, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, we get it. That's the landscape. But you have to, I am a nutritionist. I am not a doctor. I'm not a medical provider in any way. I cannot cure anything. I cannot treat anything. I will never purport to do those things. But I can support you in a certain way, and I can give you resources, and I can connect you with my network for other ways. Yeah. And then we work together as a great team. But please, 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 if you are listening to this and you are in any of those fields, please don't please don't do a mini chat with my peptide stack or give advice on these things, because unless you are a medical professional who is trained in peptides as well. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh,
anyway, that's
so
my
much.
rant.
Yeah, I know. We could go on, and it's already been so long. This is such a fascinating conversation. So I'm going to ask a few things to wrap up, but so if a woman is feeling the tired, the puffy, we're stuck in our weight, what are three, or, what can you land on? Maybe 3 changes that we could start this week that would start moving the needle?
Okay, I'm going to say, before you do anything else, you have to protect your sleep as if your life depends on it. Now, I know that is so much easier said than done, but the healthiest diet, the best exercise routine, none of those things are going to work unless you're sleeping. And I know that scientifically, inside and out. I know that from my clients. Being a woman who struggles with sleep in perimenopause, oh my goodness, when your sleep isn't there, nothing else is dialed in. So protect your sleep. Eat early in the evenings. Do not have screens in your bedroom. Sleep in a cold, dark room. All of those sleep hygiene things that we know. Protect your sleep as if your life depends on it. That's number 1. Number 2 is, and these are so boring, but I can't not say them. Number 2 is to eat more protein.
Well, it is boring, but I don't think we hear it enough, because it's still something that we're not getting through to.
I think we're hearing it, but I think it's not getting through.
Exactly.
And I think the misconception with this is that this is new science, and this is not new science. Do we understand more these days how women's physiological needs change over 40? Yes, we do. Thank goodness. But it's not that our need for protein has changed or the advice has changed. It's just we had crazy recommendations and crazy fad diets in the 70s, 80s, and 90s of plant-based, high carb, meat is bad for you, etc., etc. So all we've done is swung the pendulum the other way. So the other one is eat more protein. And yeah, we want to start with that 1 gram per pound of body weight rule, but honestly, 1.2 to 1.4, you really can't eat too much protein. Unless you have a diagnosed kidney disease, you cannot eat, like it's physically too hard. It's too hard to eat too much protein. So eat more protein. And then the number 3 is pick up some weights and strength train. And I'll be honest, I do not love it. I do not love going into the gym and repping it out. And it is boring and like 100%. But I was the poster child for group fitness classes and bar classes. And I love that. I love the environment. The
It won't
physiological
change your
change,
yeah,
it
exactly.
doesn't change it. It
Yeah.
doesn't. Everyone's like, isn't reformer Pilates gonna? No, nothing works as well as getting in the gym and picking up those heavy weights. A strength training program, you need to be doing the same program 3 to 6 weeks. It's boring, but you're in and out. You should be in and out of the gym in an hour at the absolute most.
I know. You can kill yourself in like 30 minutes. Like, ladies, just pick up those weights and just go.
Like, honestly, and then do the other stuff if you still enjoy it and you still want to be in that fun class environment. But honestly, the reason why you love those classes is because they're not hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
well,
it's so
hard,
true.
But they're not.
You're
they're
staying
not,
comfortable, and that's not going to change anything.
It's wonderful to lie down and put your legs in some things and go round and round. And some of the reformer classes, they're hard, but hard doesn't always mean effective.
Yeah. Well, oh my gosh. Thank you for being here today, Jennifer. Seriously, I've learned so much. I know that the listeners will too. And it's just, even just starting with this conversation on whatever tip or trick or, information that you're able to take from this conversation and take it to your next resource to continue on your health journey. Also, I think that just knowing that we're not alone in any of this, that we're all going through this, and this is what happens in perimenopause and menopause. That's one day.
There we go. That's one day. Yeah. And then postmenopause, which we're, hopefully we'll be in postmenopause for 40 years of our lives. That's a long time. But yeah, I think it's, I always ask my clients, what is the next healthiest decision you can make? So if you're listening to this podcast and you're sat down, go up and have a glass of water, or, think about what you're going to have for dinner that night so you can get to bed earlier. Just that next healthy decision, because then they build and they build and they build. So that would just be my key takeaway.
I love it. Thank you. Where can everyone find you? Where's the best places?
Come and hang out with me on Instagram at Jennifer Hanway. I do have an easy protein guide. So all of those things that we have been talking about. So if anyone wants to come over, come and see me on Instagram at Jennifer Hanway. DM me the word protein and I'll send you my protein guide, or just DM me and say hi. That's where I hang out the most.
Amazing. Thank you. I will make sure everything's in the show notes. And again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. If today's conversation resonated, then ask yourself what one small action you can take from it. Because momentum isn't built in big, dramatic moments. It's built in a quiet follow-through, the honest choices, and the decision you make when no one's watching. If you loved this episode, the best way to support the show is to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, you don't have to choose between showing up for your life and going after your potential. This is your permission to stop playing small. I'll see you next time.